recording now, and we will start our lesson, but I will pray. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day, God. Thank you for this moment to pray. Thank you for the stillness, as it feels like so many things go rushing past our brains and our experience, Lord. We know that you are always there, and that we can always pause in our day, and it's always good to take this time to be with you. So, Lord, we thank you for that. We thank you for this rest that you give us. Please bless this class. Help us do really well today. Let it all be for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. All right. So starting with number 10. God bless you. Starting with number 10, here we go. So, number 10, I have a binomial squared equals a number. What should I do? What's the easiest thing that I can do here? What's the easiest method? Yeah, just take the square root of both sides. Okay, and so that's exactly what I'll do. Square root both sides. And then I have to remember the plus or minus. That cancels out. I'm left with x minus 5 equals plus or minus square root of 16 is 4. Once I've got that, I go ahead and separate them into two equations. X minus 5 equals negative 4. X minus 5 equals positive 4. Then I add 5 to both sides of both equations. And I have my solution x equals 1 and x equals 9. Any questions on that? Okay. Good? All right. So the next one was number 11. And I'm glad that these questions were in sequence here because we can see the difference. Notice the difference between, what's the main difference between number 10 and 11? Who can point it out? Yes, sir?
Well, the last number on the number 10 is an actual number.
Yeah. This one has a variable, right? X. Yeah, exactly. So can I take the square root of both sides here? No, because then I'll end up with the square root of x, right? And I don't want to end up with the square root of x, right? No? Okay. So I can't do it that way. I have to do it a different way. So what would you guys suggest that I can do, that I do? No, not quite yet.
I think just put the exponent in.
I use the exponent, I square it, right? I square 2x minus 1. So I basically FOIL it out, right? So I get 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 1 equals x. And I FOIL this. I get 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. Minus 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Hi. Do you have a pass for me? Okay. All right, thank you. Facebook. I'm going to go on Facebook in the middle of class. Sorry, it's faculty access, not Facebook that I'm trying to get on. Sure, right. All right, guys, just have fun. I'm just going to scroll through my Facebook feed. What was that? All right. Cool, so that's what I've got. And I get 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals x. All right. And then what do I do? What do I do? What do I have to get one side equal to? 0, right? So what do I have to do? Subtract x from both sides, right? And I end up with 4x squared minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. Right? Cool. Now, my leading coefficient, is it 1 or is it not 1? It is. Well, I guess, when you hit a baseball, it's got a parabolic trajectory, which would effectively be like studying quadratic equations, but not exactly the same. All right, so with that said, we've got a quadratic formula that we're going to have to use here because the leading coefficient is not 1. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I identify a, b, and c. The funniest part is you saw me look at you. Like 3 minutes ago, I looked at you. I was like, yeah, I know you're on your cell phone. I thought that we had that moment, and then you still didn't put it away. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw you put it away too. I was like, oh, he got the drift, and then no, just couldn't.
And I think it's like, oh wait,
Yeah, got it. Okay, all right. Golly. All right. X equals negative, b is negative 5, plus or minus square root, negative 5 squared minus 4, a is 4 times c is 1, all over 2 times 4 equals positive 5 plus or minus square root of negative 5 squared is 25 minus 4 times 4 is 16 all over 8 equals 5 plus or minus square root of 9 over 8, which equals 5 plus or minus square root of 9 is 3 over, sorry, I put 2 here, that should be an 8 over 8. Cool, you guys with this? Just quadratic formula. So I do both answers. X equals 5 minus 3 over 8. X equals 5 plus 3 over 8. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 over 8 is 1/4. X equals 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 over 8 is 1. And those are my two solutions. Does that make sense? You could have done this with factoring by grouping. You could have done that one with factoring by grouping. The reason why I don't recommend that you do factoring by grouping if you have the choice is, as I've mentioned before, because sometimes you'll think you can do factoring by grouping, and then it won't actually be possible, and you will have wasted time and potentially made mistakes in the process. Any questions? All right. So the next one was number 12. Okay, and this is another good one. All right. It's harder to see what to do here, but does anyone have an idea of what I should do? What should I do? I've got a square term and the rest are numbers. I can't do that because I've got the square out here, so I can't just distribute that 2 in. I could subtract the 3 over here, but then I'm going to square this out. Anybody have an idea? Add what? Add 5. Let's add 5 to both sides. Why? Well, because then I end up with 2 times x plus 2 squared equals 8. Then what? Then I divide by 2. You see how now that's easier to see what to do? X plus 2 squared equals 4. Right? Now, since this is just a number, I can take the square root of both sides.
yes.
Then the square cancels out. I get x plus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 4 is 2. Okay? Now, before I go on with anything else, I want you to notice that, you could have squared this out and then simplified and then got it equal to 0 and then factored or something. You could have done a lot of things, right? But that would have all been more work than just noticing, wait a second, I just get it all on one side and use the square root property. So that's the point of why I'm going through this, is because you could solve this with multiple different methods, but there's generally an easiest way to do it. And that's what I encourage you to find is the easiest way that engenders less mistakes. X plus 2 equals negative 2.
x plus 2 equals positive 2. Subtract 2 from both sides. X equals negative 4. X equals 2 minus 2 is 0. Guys, even though this is a quiz, you're going to have a lot of time to do it because there are going to be some ones that you need quadratic formula, and I know that just takes time. So you're pretty much going to have the whole hour. So if you're like done with the quiz, right, and you've gotten all your answers, and you're like, okay, these are my answers, I'm good, right? And you're just sitting there, or maybe you want to just turn in the quiz so you can study for something else. What's something that would be wise to do? Check your answers. How do you check your answers? Plug them back in, right? If I plug in 0 here, I get 0 plus 2 is 2, 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 minus 5 is 3. Bam. I know that I got one right answer, and I could do the same thing with negative 4 as well. You see? Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions? All right. Number 12, that was done. Number 15. Number 15. That sound? It's when I'm taking a screenshot. How I find it is actually Mr. Mitchell showed me how to do that. You can just take a screenshot and it copies it rather than actually just saving a screenshot. It copies it so then I can paste it right in here. Mr. Mitchell came through for me because it was a much longer process before last year when I was doing the same thing. All right, so here we've got what's the leading coefficient? Is it 1 or is it not 1? It's not 1. So what do I immediately go to? Quadratic formula. Okay. So I immediately go to quadratic formula. I know A is equal to 3, B is equal to 6, C is equal to 2. X equals negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. The reason why I sing that every time is to help you guys remember it, because you're going to have to remember this. It won't be given to you explicitly on the test.
You have to sing it on the...
No. Though I have done that in the past for extra credit, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. All right. X equals negative 6 plus or minus square root of 6 squared minus 4. A is 3, C is 2, all over 2 times 3 equals negative 6 plus or minus square root of 36 minus 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24, all over 6, 2 times 3 is 6, equals negative 6 plus or minus square root of 12, all over 6. Is 12 a perfect square? No. So what do?
You get a perfect square. Try to simplify. Yes. More than 3. Slopes, I know. Golly. You guys just have too much fun. All right, is 12 a perfect square? No. So what do I do with this? Shh. What do I do with this? What do? I simplify it. So square root of 12, how do I simplify it? I check if a perfect square is a factor of 12. Are there any perfect squares that are factors of 12?
No.
4. Square root of 4 times 3 equals radical 4 times radical 3. Square root of 4 is what? 2. So it's 2 radical 3. This becomes negative 6, Mr. Wepner, please, thank you. 2 radical 3 over 6. Okay, shh. Now, what do I do? What do I do here?
I was just sought to hand out for yearbook. Is that cool?
What?
I have some papers to hand out to some students in this classroom.
Yes,
Is there a Pedro Martinez?
I'm going to try to get it today. I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Is there a Victoria's
I think-
response?
Okay. Okay.
My fault.
Angie?
People forgot.
She's not here today?
Like an Angie or an
Angelina, which last name?
He.
Angie.
Not here.
Gabe Veloso.
Alright. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Useful. Hey, here.
Where are these?
Let's just, they're not here.
Are they not here? Alright, I'll make sure they get them.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Yeah, class today.
Okay. Shh, 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 shh. All right. Hey, what do I do here?
Okay.
What do I do? What's my next step?
Oh, don't think cancel, no.
What-
Do equation.
No, not yet.
Oh.
I got the 6 cancel.
Shh, shh, shh. What do I do with the top? I check if there is a common factor, and if there is, I pull it out because that's how I'll simplify. What's the common factor? 2. So I pull out a 2. This becomes negative 3 plus or minus radical 3 over 6. Then how do I simplify this? Cancel out the 2. This becomes what? Negative 3 plus or minus radical 3. What does the bottom become if I cancel that 2? 3. You see? Does that make sense? Now I separate them. Negative 3 minus radical 3 over 3 and negative 3 plus radical 3 over 3. Does that make sense? You guys understand this? Good. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, go right ahead. Does that make sense? Okay. Guys, you're going to be expected to be doing things exactly like this. Yes, sir.
Are the ones on the quiz gonna be this long?
Yeah. They'll be almost exactly like this. That's the point. That's why I'm taking the time to do this. Yeah. Okay. Listen, guys. It's quadratic formula. There's no. I can't give you a much easier way to do this. If there was, I'd give it to you. Okay. But this is it. But the thing about quadratic formula is, yeah, there's a lot of steps, but it's always the same thing, and it's honestly right there in front of you. It's just algebraic simplification, which you guys have been doing for a long time. It's not like this is a new process. You've seen quadratic formula years ago. So this is just about like practicing, really. Okay? Because you know what's in front of you. Just got to practice. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? I would imagine number 16 is on someone's mind. Right? See, this one looks really hard, but you see, I'll show you. It's not so hard. I don't like this fraction here or here, because if I put that into quadratic formula, I've got fractions being squared, being multiplied and added, and that's just not fun. So I don't want to do that. So what should I do? Yes. If I multiply by 2, what's going to happen to those fractions? They'll go away. So that's exactly what I'll do. I'll multiply both sides by 2. This becomes 2 times 1/2 is 1, so that's just x squared, plus 2 times 3x is 6x, plus 2 times 5/2 is 5, equals 0 times 2 is 0. Does that make sense, Mr. Webner? That is so distracting, please. Thank you. All right. It is almost Thanksgiving. Mr. Webner, I'm coming to your house. I'm just letting you know.
Oh yeah.
Eat some mashed potatoes. All right. Shh, shh, shh. All right. Now, do you guys see what just happened?
Yes.
This really challenging looking equation became very simple. Yes, ma'am.
Is there gonna be fractions?
Could be. Now look. Now look. What's the leading coefficient here? 1. So what should I check? If I can factor it, right? Well, hey, let's take a look. 1 and 5. Shh, shh. X plus 1 times x plus 5 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. X plus 5 equals 0. X equals negative 1. X equals negative 5.
Is it okay if we just write x equals and then negative 1 and comma negative 5?
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's fine. Shh. Mr. Martinez just asked a valuable question. X equals negative 1, comma, negative 5 is another way that you could write that. Just be careful, because if that confuses you, don't do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay? Any other questions about that? Are there any other questions on our quiz? What it's going to be like? Wait, hold on. There's one more I have to do. There's one more I have to do. Which one is it? It's number 14. Right. Let's do it. Okay. What's the leading coefficient here? Is it 1? No. Okay. Before I do anything else, never mind. Let me just do it the way that I would do it otherwise. Watch. So what do I have to do? Quadratic formula, right? A equals 6. B, thank you, sir, equals -5. C equals 12, right? So x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals -5 plus or minus square root -5 squared minus 4 times 6 times 12 all over 2 times 6 equals +5 plus or minus the square root of -5 squared is 25 minus 4 times 6 is, no, this is wrong. 4 times, no, is it? No, it isn't. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 times 12 is 288.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay. Equals 5 plus or minus 25 minus 288 is -263 over 12. What do I notice immediately? What is this? The thing under the square root. What's it called? Discriminant. The thing under the, guys, this is important, listen. The discriminant is the thing under the square root, b squared minus 4ac, and if the discriminant is negative, what do I know?
It's not real.
There's no real solutions. There's no real solutions. There are no real solutions, so your answer there is no real solutions. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, now, last thing. Shh. Last thing. Hang with me. The discriminant. Remember the discriminant. The discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. And remember, if b squared minus 4ac is positive, or more than 0, how many solutions do I have? How many real solutions? 2. If b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, how many solutions do I have? 1. And if b squared minus 4ac is negative or less than 0, how many solutions do I have? Real solutions? None. You guys remember this? So I might ask you to find the discriminant of something like this. 2x squared minus 4x plus 8. I say find the discriminant. Well, you identify a as 2, b is -4, and c is 8. Then you do b squared, which is -4 squared minus 4 times a is 2 times c is 8. -4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 16 minus 64 is -48. The discriminant is negative, therefore, how many real solutions are there? None. You guys clear on this? Okay. So, any other questions? All right, so what can you expect to see on the quiz? Basically, any quadratic equation, and you'll have to solve it using one of the different methods that we've gone through. And you can expect to see something on the discriminant, one way or another. You have to know how to find the discriminant. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. And you have to know the quadratic formula as well, because you won't be given it explicitly. All right, any other questions? Anything? No? Good? Yeah?